The goal for this video is for you to draw this 4-bar linkage in Autodesk Inventor in less than 10 minutes. And I don't mean that I can draw it in 10 minutes, but it's going to take you 3 hours. I mean that you're going to be able to draw this in 10 minutes. So right now, open up Inventor, split your screen in half, get Inventor on one side and keep this video open on the other side and just follow along. And in 10 minutes, you should have this working animation of a 4-bar linkage. In order, you're going to first create the 4 links, each as their own separate part file. And then once you have all of those drawn, you're going to create an assembly file and combine them using joints. So right when you open Inventor, you'll be presented with a screen that looks something kind of like this. Select to create a new part. The first thing to do when you create a new part is to save your file, to give it a name to make sure that later on all of your work's not going to get lost. So select File, Save As, then use this drop-down menu to navigate to whichever folder you want to save your files. And type in your file name right here. I'm going to call it Ground. To begin the sketch, select Start 2D Sketch. And you can click on any of the 3 planes you want. I'm going to click on the XY plane, but it's arbitrary. And I think these links look well when they're drawn as a slot. So I'm going to select Slot from the arrow underneath the rectangle tool. Then to draw my slot, I'm going to click right on the origin for the left-hand side and then move my cursor to the right. And you'll notice that as long as you stay sort of close to the X-axis, it'll lock into place and it'll keep your drawing perfectly horizontal. So I'll type in whatever length I want my slot to be. Here I'm typing in 5. Then after I hit enter on the keyboard, it's going to give me an opportunity to type in another number, which is going to be the width of this slot. And I'm typing in 0.75. After I get that done, I go over to the right-hand side, which is where all of your zoom and pan commands are, and click on the Zoom All button, which expands the window to make sure that my drawing can actually fit the screen so I can see what I actually drew. After that, hit Finish Sketch, which takes you back to 3D space, and again hit Zoom All so your drawing actually fits on the screen. The Extrude command will automatically assume that you want to extrude this most recent sketch that you just made. I'm going to change the distance to 0.25 inches so that the slot is kind of skinny. And it's not going to end up mattering whether I extrude forward or back or out from the middle, so I'm just going to have it extruding out forward. Since this is the ground link, I'm going to have some pins sticking out from ground that my other crank and rocker can slot onto. So again, I start a 2D sketch. This time I select the front face of my object since that's where the pins are going to extrude out from. And again, zoom all to fit the whole drawing on the screen. The default circle drawing command is center point, where you're just going to do a left click on the center of the circle and then a second left click for a point on your circle. Instead of that second left click though, you can actually just do a first click where the center is and then type in a number, which will be the diameter. When selecting the center, you'll notice that there's a green dot will light up when you happen to coincide with an important point. So in order to stay exactly at the center of that left-hand arc of the slot, I can click on that green dot and that makes sure that this pin is going to be in exactly the right spot. Over on the right-hand drawing, I'm going to do exactly the same, but this time I'm going to make my circle just arbitrarily bigger at some random number so that I can show you how the equals constraint works. By selecting this equals sign up in the constraints menu, I can then left-click on my left circle, which has an exact dimension, and then left click again on the right circle, and it's going to set them both equal to each other. This way later on, if I decide to change the dimensions of one circle, it'll automatically update the other one. So after I finish sketch and go to extrude, this time it doesn't know what shape I want to extrude since I drew more than one. So I have to manually click on each of the 2 circles with a left click, and that will show them then start to be extruded. If you wanted them to actually be pushed into the link as a whole, you could select this other bottom option, but for this one, I want them extruded outwards as a pin. It'll be easier later on to visually distinguish the different links from each other if we make them a different color or different material. So by selecting this drop-down menu next to these color wheels, you can select a huge variety of different color options. I like using the black cast for ground objects because it's got this sort of cast iron textured kind of appearance that makes it look kind of like ground, like it's rigid. And then very important step, hit that disk icon to save your drawing. Don't lose your work. To draw each of the next 3 links, the crank, coupler, and rocker, we don't have to start from scratch. We can actually start with what we've already got here. Go up to File, Save As, and right in the same folder as you had your ground file, create a new one that's called Crank. So click on this folder for open, navigate to where your files are saved, and you should see 2 files now, one called ground that you made first and one called crank. So go ahead and open up the file named crank, and you should see down at the bottom of your screen that you actually have 2 tabs open now in Inventor. So I'm first going to change the color of this crank to red, just so it's easier for me to tell it apart. So now if I switch back and forth between the tabs, I can recognize which one I'm working on just based on the color. So right now the crank can't connect to ground because they both have pins sticking out from them. So for this crank, what I actually want are holes instead of pins. By right-clicking on Extrusion 2, I get this pop-up menu where I can select the option Edit Feature. And this lets me change the extrusion settings. So I can change the direction instead of coming outwards to be pushing inwards, and change the Boolean from being added material to being subtracted material. And once I click OK, I can see that this crank is updated with 2 holes. And now if I decide that the crank is too long and I want it to be a shorter dimension, I can left click on the object itself, which pulls up this little toolbar, select the Edit Sketch option. Then within the sketch, double click on that 5-inch dimension that I typed in earlier and type in a new dimension. Hit the green check mark, the drawing automatically updates itself, click on Finish Sketch, and you'll see that the shape automatically updates, including the holes get moved in as well. So your TAND just came by to remind me to hit the save button so I wouldn't lose any of my work. So you should go ahead and do that too. Go ahead and hit that floppy disk icon that says save. And next, we're going to repeat these steps 2 more times to create a coupler and a rocker. So I do a save copy as to create a new file called coupler. Then I go up to the folder icon and select open, and open that new file I just created. I'm changing the color to blue so that I can easily tell the difference between each of my 3 files. Another way to edit a sketch is on the left-hand side, the model tree, is to right-click on Extrusion 1, which was that first slot that we drew, select Edit Sketch from the drop-down menu, and that brings you back into the sketch, where again you can double-click on the dimension you want to change, type in a new number, I'm typing in 7, hit the Zoom All button so I can see the whole picture, hit Finish Sketch to take me back out to 3D space, where I hit the Zoom All button again so that I can see the whole coupler. Hit the floppy disk save icon to now save this drawing. 3 down, 1 to go. So File, Save As, Save Copy As, create a new file that's called Rocker. Then go up to the folder to open your new file called Rocker. Change the color to a new color, again to make sure it's real easy to tell all 4 of your parts apart from each other visually. Left click on the object and select the Edit Sketch from the pop-up tooltip. Double click on a number to change it to some new length. Hit Finish Sketch and you're back to 3D space. You now have 4 files and we're ready to create the assembly. The horizontal piece of paper with the arrow right next to it is the New button. So if you click on that, you'll get 4 different options and you're going to select Assembly. And then you'll be presented with this blank slate, which looks a lot like the Part window, except that all of your icons along the top ribbon are going to be different. And we're going to be using the Place command first. So select the arrow underneath Place, and from that you can select the top option, which is Place, to place a component. Navigate to where all your files are saved and select your ground object. And then you can click anywhere on your screen to place the ground. Now, if you click a whole bunch of times, you'll actually place multiple copies of the same object. So just click 1 time and then hit the Escape key to get rid of it so you don't keep placing it over and over again. I've changed the default settings of Inventor for me so that whenever I place my first object, it's always automatically grounded. But if you don't have that selected, right click on your object and look down to where you see the word grounded. And if it's not already checked, then hit the check mark next to it to make sure that this ground object is grounded, which means that it won't move. The other objects will move around it, but it itself will stay stationary. Do similar object for the crank by selecting the Place, selecting it from the pop-up window, just clicking anywhere on the screen 1 time, that's a left click, and then hit Escape because I only want 1 copy. Repeat 2 more times to place the coupler and then place the rocker. You can click anywhere on the screen. It doesn't have to be in a particular place. You just want them in the drawing. You're going to move them into place afterwards. When I hit the Zoom All button, now I can actually see that I have all 4 objects in the drawing. As I rotate the screen a little bit, you can see none of them are lined up with each other at all. Again, not a problem. We're going to deal with that with joints and constraints. So the first joint I'm going to make is going to be a rotational joint between the crank and ground, using the pin on the ground and the hole in the crank. So select Joint from the ribbon, and then under Type, scroll down to Rotational. My goal for a rotational joint is going to be to select the face of the pin and the face of the hole that lines up with the face of the pin. And so once I left click on both of those, one and then the other, and you can do that in either order, you'll see a short animation where it's gonna move them into place and show the actual rotation. So I'll hit apply to actually set it in place and accept that joint, and then cancel just to close that window so I can see what I made. I hit zoom all just so I can actually see the whole part. And then if I left click on the red crank, I can rotate it around in a circle. I do the same thing for the rocker. I click on joint to open up the joint menu, select rotational from the pull down. Then I first click on the rocker that's going to be moving just right on the center of the hole. And then I do a second left click on the pin joint, the surface of that round circle sticking out from ground. As soon as I click the second time, the rocker moves into place, does a 360-degree animation. So I hit apply to accept and to apply that condition, and then cancel to close the window. And now by left clicking on the rocker or the crank, I can move each of them. All right, last is gonna be to connect the coupler to both the crank and the rocker. And you notice this time that none of these have pins sticking out, they both have holes. So I'm gonna finish this by using both a cylindrical joint and a plane constraint. So I select joint and then scroll down to the cylindrical option. On my drawing, I click on the center of the hole on the crank and then the center of the hole on the coupler. And if you need to move your drawing, if it doesn't everything fit on the screen, hold the middle mouse button will let you pan around and basically drag the drawing on the screen. After making this second click, you'll see a rotation and in and out motion. And as soon as it zooms out and you can see the whole drawing again, it looks like it kind of broke your previous joint. But once you hit apply to accept these new settings, it'll automatically resolve the conflict so that it keeps both the old joint and the new joint. So cylindrical joints are kind of weird at first because they keep the two axes of the holes lined up, but the two surfaces do not have to be flushed together. So you get some weird things where the blue one is kind of connected to the red crank, but they're not. They're still separated by distance. The way to actually connect their faces to each other, though, to lock them in place is going to be by adding a constraint. So I open up the constraint menu. Under type, I select mate, which is going to have surfaces either align with each other or oppose each other. And so on solution, I'm selecting that left-hand option to have two faces oppose each other. Then on the drawing itself, I line up my cursor to be on the front side of the crank. And then I have to rotate my drawing around to the back because I want the back side of the coupler to align with the front side of the crank. So my second left click is on the back side of the blue coupler. And as soon as I make that second click, you hear a snapping noise and the blue coupler snaps into place. So I hit the apply to accept it and then cancel to close the window. And now the blue and red pieces look like they're actually connected. And so this technique is really useful if you were going to 3D print this object, but use some sort of hardware, just like a pin or a bolt. Then this allows you to match up two holes together, knowing that you'll just use a separate fastener later on when you go to actually assemble it. I repeat that same constraint one more time for the rocker. So I click on constrain to open the constraint menu. And now I'm going to repeat the cylindrical joint one more time between the coupler and the rocker. So open up the joint menu, select cylindrical from the dropdown. Then I make a left click on the center of the hole of the blue coupler. And then my second left click is on the center of the hole of the orange rocker. You'll see a brief animation as they rotate around each other. And as soon as you hit accept, then the blue piece will snap back into place. And now you'll see a combined 4-bar linkage. If I left click on the red crank with my cursor, I can move it around in a circle and you can see the crank rocker working. Motion's a little bit less predictable if you move around the coupler or the rocker, but they also work. If you try to move ground, nothing will happen because hopefully at the very beginning, you check that check mark next to grounded. Well, this is kind of fun to click on the view cube and rotate your drawing different angles and use your mouse cursor to make it rotate. But let's go one step more and have this automatically animated to rotate at a constant speed all by itself. Then I'll do that with a constraint. So I open up the constraint menu, select the angle constraint, and then under the solution options, directed angle, which is the one on the left. I now need to click on the two surfaces whose angle I'm going to be controlling. And if it's the crank that's going to be rotating, one of them will be the crank, and the angle that it makes sense to compare it to is going to be ground. So I rotate my drawing so I can see the edges of these objects. I do my first click on that small narrow top edge of the crank, and then my second click on the small narrow top edge of ground. And as soon as I make that second click, it's gonna lock into place with a 0-degree angle between them, because right now on the Place Constraint menu, I have 0 degrees written there. If I were to change that to a 30, you see that it went downwards at a 30-degree angle, or -30 has it go upwards at a 30-degree angle. So right now I'm just gonna reset it to 0, hit apply, and then cancel to close this window. On the left-hand model tree, hit the plus sign next to your crank, and looking down this list, you can see the angle constraint is gonna be the bottom one on the list since you just made it. Right-click and select drive, and you'll get a pop-up menu. Since one circle is 360 degrees, if you type in 3600 degrees for the end angle, then your animation will run for 10 complete revolutions. If I just click the forward button, it'll automatically play in the forward direction, which is usually clockwise motion. Depending on how fast your computer is, if you're on a laptop or something, this might be kind of laggy, especially as you move your cursor around. Click on the square button to stop the animation, then hit these right-hand pointing arrows to open up some extra options. Increase the increment to something like 4 degrees. And now if you hit play, you'll notice that it moves a lot faster, but it also will usually move a lot smoother as well. If you want it to rotate in the other direction, hit the reverse button. It'll rotate counterclockwise. And if you reach the end and you want to reset it, that's what these fast forward and skip to the end icons are for, so that you can reset it to keep playing the animation over and over again. Now what if you realize that you actually messed up one of the lengths and you have to change a piece to make it longer or shorter? Fortunately, it's super easy to change that, and your assembly will automatically update also. So I go back into my crank file on those tabs at the bottom, left click on my object, and then select Edit Sketch. Double click on the number, and I'll change the 2 to a 3 to make the crank longer. Hit Finish Sketch, and the object automatically gets longer, and then save. When you come back to the assembly, it might be a little worrying at first. It looks like the thing's broken. The coupler hole and the crank hole don't line up anymore. And what you'll find is the first time you try to move your object, so here if I try to drive the animation, it's gonna look totally broken, but as soon as I stop, it's gonna automatically fix itself. The joints and constraints are still remembered, and they'll snap back into place after you try to move it that first time. And if that angle constraint weren't there, you were just rotating pieces manually with your mouse cursor, you would get everything to snap back into place just by wiggling one of the pieces a little bit to get it to move, and it'll automatically lock back into place. Your time is valuable, and I'm really thankful that you chose to watch this video, and I hope that you found it worthwhile. I estimated at the beginning that you'd be able to complete this in 10 minutes, and I hope that I'm not that far off.
Samsonite! I was way off.
So leave me a comment down below and let me know, how long did this exercise actually take you to work through? If you found this video about rotational and cylindrical joints helpful, then you may want to watch this next video as well, where I make a crank slider, where I show you how to make surface contact joints that allow translation but not rotation, and also pin in slot joints, which allow both translation and rotation. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.